Hey there, folks. So, it's going to be a little bit of a weird one. I'm going to try doing some diagnostics on some Ultra HDMI modules here. More or less, let me give you the rundown. So, one of the reasons why these mods are so hard to come by, like you can probably pull up eBay right now and buy a modded console, but just getting the bare mod itself is going to be pretty difficult because the creator of these things tends to only sell them in bulk, and you know the idea is that he's selling them to modders to install into consoles and then to sell to consoles. It doesn't really sell direct to modders because it's not exactly the easiest mod to install. Personally, I didn't think it was too bad, but after seeing some of the returns, quote-unquote defective modules, I'm starting to change my opinion on that. And so what I've got here, I've got an N64 with one of these installed. This is actually not the console that I did the video on recently, but this is an entirely separate console that I modded for literally just for the purposes of troubleshooting these things. And so I want to show you what's going on. We're actually probably going to get a twofer with this thing. I'm not going to overlay the capture footage because that's just entirely too much effort and doesn't actually help us out here, but I'm going to go ahead and plug in my HDMI cable and turn on the N64, and you can see I just get that solid red light, nothing else. You don't hear anything because the Ultra HDMI module is not booting. So if you pull up the hardware install manual, I'm going to go ahead and flip that off here.
Alright. Totally out of
I
context
clicked
for my
on
channel.
something. There we go. Bright, steady on. Actually, it looks like dimly lit solid. FPGA unable to configure. Wiring problem. May also happen if firmware upgrade fails. Which is kind of weird because I know there's not a wiring upgrade problem, and I certainly didn't try doing any firmware upgrades. But I don't know. If I unplug that, and we will slip that into another Ultra HDMI here, and plug that into that one, and then flip the console on. You see red light comes on and then off. It's booting fine, which indicates to me that it's not a wiring problem, or probably isn't a wiring problem. The difference between these two modules is one of these has a composite out mod installed, but if I put the game back in there, flip that on, again, not overlaying the capture footage, but I think you can hear it booting rush. So yeah, to me that indicates it's not a wiring problem, at least not with this ribbon, but that's fine. That means it's still good enough to test. So I'm going to unplug this and set this aside. This is my known good module, and this is the one we're going to be taking a look at. I will show a closer look at what's wrong with this thing when I get the microscope out, but let me go ahead and plug it in, and you can see the first clue that something's wrong if you look at the serial sticker there. But I'm going to go ahead and flip that on. We see the throbbing LED, which is normal. At least it indicates that the system has booted, but there's no HDMI plugged in. And if we plug in HDMI, I can't actually plug in HDMI. It doesn't go in. Flip that off there. Unplug that. As it turns out, the installer for this module broke the port, so there's nothing we can do about that. Except, let me set this aside somewhere. Over there is good enough. I've got a whole slew of ports here. So let me go ahead. We are going to be using the hot plate for this, so let me go ahead and get it preheated. And boot up the soldering iron here, and let me get my microscope and let us take a look at what's going on here. So I'm going to overlay the footage. It's going to get a little bit awkward, forgive me, but we'll make it work. Let me make sure it is recording. And there we go. So pop that under there. We can see, where's the HDMI port? Let's take a look at that. You can see the pins aren't quite lined up like they should be. Kind of weird, but alright. Another thing, I actually had gone on a rant about this in a video that I may or may not have published, but someone tried touching up the solder joints on the HDMI port for whatever reason. This is what our suspect board looks like, and before I even look at the pins, let us take a look at our known good board. Look at those joints, nice, smooth, nothing weird going on there. Where's the focus? There it is. And if we take a look at the bottom here, you know, nice, smooth, flat, nothing protruding there. But if we take a look at the problem board again, I'm going to flip over to the bottom. Notice these big solder balls on the bottom. Someone, somewhere, some guide apparently is saying to reinforce the solder joints on this port, even though that is totally unfounded. The idea of this mod is that it sits perfectly flat on the bottom of the N64 housing, which this one no longer does. Notice it kind of rocks back and forth because someone decided to solder on that port. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the inside of the port. I'm going to bring that focus out. And we can see one of the big issues here. Someone tried, I don't know what the heck happened, but that's not good. Someone totally messed up this port. And what's weird is, like, it's not just that they had incorrectly plugged in a cable. If we turn it around and look at the back of the port, where is it? Sorry, gotta get my focus. Oh, I didn't even notice this the first time. It looks like we have broken pins, but those pins don't even look like they're connected to the board. Like, I don't know what happened here. I don't know what they were trying to accomplish, but this is... I also don't know what they said when they returned this. They returned this back to RGRS. RGRS sent it to me, asked me, pretty please, can you fix it? Because these aren't exactly cheap. But I'm making stuff up here. I don't know what they said. But if they said it arrived like this, and they did the install perfectly, followed instructions, it is blatantly obvious that that is not true. Like, this is not how that works. It is very obvious that they did something. For context, here is the known good board. Look at those pins. Nice, clean, flat, in a row, actually on the board. Looks good. And then back to the return board. I don't know. Like, they're so far away that if I hold it at an angle, it actually looks like they're lined up until you look at the pin all the way over on the left and notice there's no pad under it because they are lifted so high up. There we go. Look at that. Anyway, so the solution here is going to be to replace this port because it's better than e-wasting this thing, because it probably still works fine once we get a port on it. And I've got a replacement port here. Ta-da! I'll even put that under the microscope so you can see the part number. Where is it? It's that one right there. DC2R019JA7R1700. Is that it? I don't know if that's it. I think that's it. I don't know. It's a JAE part. There actually aren't that many if you look at the mini HDMI assortment. And as far as removing this goes, I honestly don't know the best way to do this, but I am going to crank up my iron heat because this is a several layer board, which means it's going to soak heat like nothing else. And I guess I'm going to try and wick it off. Yeah, let's see. First thing, I'm going to remove this serial sticker before we ruin it any further. Just going to take my disgusting knife here. Try and slip it under there. There we go. I'm going to remove it because as soon as I set this thing down on the hot plate, it's going to ruin the sticker anyhow. And I'd rather not have to clean this sticker off my hot plate. Alright. So I'm thinking we can get away with just wicking these bad boys. And some flux on there. I'm even going to get some fresh solder on there. Alright, let's try that again. This time, make it easier on myself by cutting that off. See if we can't soak up all that solder there. Now that it's nice and flat, hot plate time. That's what I get. Squeeze some nice flux on there. And if all goes according to plan, we'll just lift that bad boy off. I'm going to pull that off the hot plate, just for the time being. Get that in focus. Turn it a little to make my life easier. And I'm just going to load this up with some fresh leaded solder and flush out all that old junk. And I'm just cleaning up those solder holes that I just got a bunch of solder in. Ain't perfect. Good enough. Alright. I'm gonna clean up whatever that burnt stuff is. Hopefully old flux. Get some IPA on here. Where's my bottle? There it is. Clean up all the burnt flux, and we'll put fresh flux on there. I don't know what the heck is on here even. But that ain't all my flux. I don't know what that is. There we go. Moist and clean. And with a brush, there's cotton swab strands stuck in there. And I'll clean up the rest later, but I was primarily only interested in the part under the port. And it is time for the hot plate again. I am going to line up the port, get a little bit of flux on there. It's not on the hot plate yet. A little bit too much flux, but it's alright. That drop into place. Can line that up a little bit better. There we go. Alright, now I'm going to pull it off the hot plate. And I'm done with the hot plate for now. So I'm going to unplug it, let it cool down. And I guess let's just do a quick visual inspection. I don't think I'm going to need to touch that up. Well, I think I see one pin not connected. That's a shame. That's alright. It's hard to tell. If it wasn't, it is now. I'll just hit them all real quick, why not? Ooh. I'm gonna turn it to hit those last ones. How's it looking on bottom? Could use a little bit more solder. Just a little bit. Oh no, actually it looks good. We don't want too much on there, because otherwise it won't fit right. Oh, look at that. Beauty. I think we're good. Alright, I'm gonna kill the microscope. Stop recording. Power off. And I'll have to clean that later. That's alright. Back down here. And I need to clean that. Easiest way to do so. Just like that. Clean off the bottom. But now I've also got to let it dry. So I don't really want to plug it in to my N64 while it's all nice and sopping wet. Especially since that's a BGA chip and I just got a bunch of IPA under it. But look at that, nice, clean, pretty solder joints. Doesn't look like a mess anymore. Alright, I am going to lean that up against my screwdriver set here and let us take another look at this N64. And see if we can't figure out why this is not working. Oh, it's so close. Can't quite get that. Still just dull red. Okay. So I'm wagering the problem is something with this component board because it's not in there straight. It's at an angle. I don't know what's going on. I think it's related to this shrouding because it does not fit proper with the shrouding installed. So let me grab. Oh, I've already got it right here. The wrong size screwdriver. This is why, one of the reasons why no-cut installs aren't exactly the best. Oh, don't forget to turn the heat down on your soldering iron. Ooh, let that thing cook itself. Alright. As I just pop that thing back into position. Where's my power supply? Yeah, now it's still just the glowing dull red LED. Genuinely not sure how that happened. I swear it did work. Let's get it apart, find out. We'll wait for the other one to dry. that one. And then I think we got to do the two under the expansion pack. Is that right? Yeah. Or jumper pack, excuse me. At least I'm not calling it a transfer pack still. Is that it? Feels like it. I'm gonna pop that board out. We'll just flip it up and over. And drop this thing back in. Just like that. Nope, I gotta remove that screw because it fell in funny. There we go. Should remove all of them. Jumper pack. Look at that. Now it's throbbing like it's supposed to. Let me get my cable here. Plug that in. And it's working exactly like it's supposed to. What do you know? So the problem was this no-cut install. I'm going to have to swap this out, pop that back in, file a hole in the housing, and take out the spacers and everything. But in the meantime, let us try this bad boy, the one we just fixed. Definitely could use more time to dry, but do as I say, not as I do, something, something. Where'd my cable go? Actually, before I even plug in the HDMI, plug that in. You got the blinking, exactly like it's supposed to. Let's see, does that plug in this time? That does plug in this time. And do we have rush? Hey! Let me pull up the capture. Let's make sure it's actually outputting properly. Yeah, it looks good. So yeah, that was literally the only problem. Just the HDMI port. I've verified that this board is now working. Let me let's just cement things into place. Whoopsie doodle. Dropping things. We'll stick the serial back on there. So we know this board is indeed working. Try it one more time. There it is, plugged into the N64. You know, I'll even flip it on before plugging that in. Get that little hair out of there. Pretty definitive, wouldn't you say? So yeah, there we go. There was a twofer. I didn't think I'd get two things solved with that. So yeah, my next step is going to be to package this back up. I will send it away to RGRS and he will deal with the customer however he sees fit. None of my business. And I guess I gotta fix my test N64 by converting this from a cutless install to a cut install. And I'm just gonna do exactly like I did in my video. Lots of slow filing, guess, and check, because I'll pull this up here and I'll show you exactly what the problem is. Oops. Just bent the crap out of that LED. Alright. So this thing, the shroud here, the composite kit goes right where one of these supports used to be. I filed it mostly off, but it still didn't quite fit right, and I guess it was causing this thing to seat funny. So the next step is going to be to toss that and get this installed properly. So what I was alluding to in the beginning of the video here, without this spacer, this thing is supposed to sit flush against the bottom of the N64, and it can't do that if there's solder on the HDMI port. So be careful what guide you're looking into. There's a way to do it. It isn't too bad, but there we go. Don't mess with the port. Don't mess with something that doesn't need to be messed with. I need to go clean this up. I didn't realize there's still some flux under that port. But otherwise, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful to, I don't know, if you've got Ultra HDMI problems, I hope this was helpful. And if not, I hope it was at least entertaining. Thanks for watching, guys. Catch you next time.